All right, good evening, everyone. This is Women on the Move Book Club. It is March 3rd, 2022, and we are going to start discussing a book. I'll let Erica, who's our host tonight, share the title and the author of the book, but first we'll start with introductions. I'm Cindy, and you can just go in turn.
I'm Pam.
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Melody. Sorry.
And I'm Sharon.
And the host of tonight is Erica, and I'll turn it over to Erica. Erica,
Okay.
go for it.
Well, I just love Kristin Hannah. Like, I just think she's become my new favorite author. I like everything she writes. The two books that I read before that I was so hooked on, they were all about World War II. So I was surprised when I saw this one and read this one, and pleasantly surprised, and then really surprised to hear that it was that it took place here in our own hometown, or at least the fictional story, but I'm sure, as you know, Kristin Hannah usually chooses from history to write on, and so that was a surprise to me as I read it, but I loved it. I was on the edge of my seat. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I can't wait to hear what you have to say. And Tammy sent me some information that she had about it, so I'm excited to share. I wish she could join us tonight because she has a lot of input on this book, so I'm excited to share with you what she shared with me.
Erica, would you like to tell everyone the title of the book so they know?
Oh yes, we probably should do that, right? It's The Four Winds by Kristin Hannah. So whoever wants to get started and let me know. I don't have a set of questions for you. I know that we're really talking about that, although I think that there are some in the back of the book that I could pull from. Give me just a second and I can do that. But if somebody wants to start, and I'll kind of pull from some of the questions in the back, but I'd just love to know what your thought processes are.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and jump on in. My goodness, it was a page turner. And I'll say this. Our main character is
Elsa.
Rosa, yes.
Elsa.
When she,
Elsa.
Rose, yes. When
Elsa.
Elsa.
Because
Yes.
Rose and Tony Martinelli, their son is Rafe. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
And yes, okay. Elsa. When Elsa first got together with our young Rafe, and he was giving her attention, I knew what was going to happen. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And her parents, but it was the time, and we understand, but boy, oh boy, were they severe. And she goes from one household, and she's not considered to be a pretty girl, and it's like, wow, she just had a hard life. I'll say one word just overall for the book, it's like hardship. Oh my goodness, from the beginning to the end, it was hard. There was hardship, and I was glad at the end, it's like there was a glimmer of, I won't say a glimmer of hope. There was some satisfaction, and I don't even know if that's the right word. It was just like maybe some peace is the word. There was
I think redemption would be a good word.
yes,
Yeah.
redemption.
Yeah.
Yes, at the end, but oh my goodness, she had such a hard life. So I'll just give an overview and let everybody give an overview. I loved it, Erica. I like the author. I like the book. It was a page turner, and I love the purpose of when they said what the four winds blew them there. So I always like to see how the author ties in the title in the book. So anyway, I'll let some of you others share, and then I know Erica has some questions. My overview was excellent, hardship, peace, and then Melody's word is redemption.
I love it. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Tiffany, what'd you think?
I liked it. I liked the way the daughter came around in the end.
Yeah.
Having so many teenagers, and you struggle with them, and you always wonder. I just really liked how it turned around, and And that was her ultimate respect was for her mother at the end. That was absolutely my favorite part. I thought it was good. I really enjoyed it. I'd be interested in reading more of hers. I would
She's
read more of
great.
hers for sure.
Read Nightingale and Winter Garden. Oh,
I was going to ask you which ones. Say that again.
Nightingale and
Uh-huh.
Winter Garden.
Winter Garden. Okay.
Mhm.
So
They're
I was
awesome.
looking at the titles. So I'm going to order a couple more of hers. I really enjoyed her writing.
Thank you.
I
about
liked
you,
the
Sorry.
closeness of the Martinelli family too. The way
Yes.
Rose and Tony took her in, and then
Mhm.
her and Rose developed such a sweet relationship. I liked that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was beautiful, but it took time because Rose was
Correct.
hard in the beginning.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, she
That
had
baby
dreams
was
for her
born.
kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I loved the book too. I think I loved how she built that relationship between Rose and Tony. Like Tony, it was like right away you could tell he knew that he looking at her and how she reacted and different things. He just kind of, in a sense, was a kindred spirit with her and knew that, okay, this is not what I want for my son either, but this person needs help. You know, I just kind of felt, I sensed that in personally when he first started, and then he kept trying to tell Rose, but Rose, this is what we have to do, you know. And it was like, you know, and I could just see that, you know, that's even with my husband and I, you know, we tend to do that. He tends to, you know, calm me down when I get really, you know, angst and this and that, and, you know, going back and forth. So I loved seeing their relationship and then seeing how it built, and especially how she talked about kids, how they, you know, they're the best things and then they rip your heart out. You know what I mean? And it is so true. And I think what I loved even more about the book too, well, there's two things. I loved the history because I love when a great story is in history and I learned something. So, you know, being on the West Coast, I really, and I, even though Bakersfield is known for the Okies from the Skokies and all that stuff, I didn't really know exactly. I mean, I knew of the Dust Bowl, but not really understanding the whole, just science behind what was happening and during the time, and just the thing, how far we've come with all of this to a certain extent. Although
Yeah.
you kind of are seeing with climate change how we're kind of doing it again.
Yeah.
I I loved how she still built, she didn't make Ralph, I can't say his name,
Rafe.
Rafe, she didn't make him out to be this like terrible guy. She just made him out to be someone who just wasn't doing what he wanted to do, you know, but she still kept giving him credit and didn't bash him, didn't, you know, begrudge him. And I appreciated that because it was like, although everybody knew, you know, he wasn't making really good choices, at the same time, she just tried to keep doing what she could do and move forward. So there you go.
I half expected him to come back at the end of the novel somewhere, somehow.
I know,
I
me
expected
too.
him to reappear somewhere.
They don't even finish saying where he ever went, huh? I would be curious what in her mind, how that finished off. Because you know he got caught up in it too. You couldn't run away from that.
No.
Couldn't run away from that.
Yeah.
Allison, just so
me-
you know, we can't see your face.
I know, it's telling me that the host disabled participant from screen sharing.
Well, you're not screen sharing. That has nothing to do with us being able to see you.
At the bottom, there should be like a camera.
Right. But you know what? Her camera isn't off. You can tell because of the color of the screen, Erica.
Yeah.
So
'Cause
she
that
needs to
happened
push
last
share
time, Allison.
screen. If she pushes share screen, it may need to.
Let's see here. Oh, okay, hold on. There it is.
There you
go.
I have my thing. Okay, that's better. Hi, guys.
All right. It surely is
Hi.
better.
I thought
You know,
everyone-
my husband said, I think she has something over her screen. 'cause
I
you
did.
guys are
I
yeah.
didn't even know it. I'm thinking, what's wrong? I can't see anybody. Why is my screen you know, because I'm one of those people who covers their little camera because I walk past it, you just never know. It's like, okay, you know, you never know who's like watching you. I'm always scared that that might just like really be true. I cover that. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
It's good
I
to
was
see
going to
everyone.
say, for me, Kristin Hanna is like hit and miss. I love Nightingale. That was one of my favorite books, but I didn't like Winter Garden. And I can't say that I disliked this book. I liked it to a certain extent, but I got to a point where I was like, okay, I can't hear another line about how dry and dusty and horrible it was. I get it. It was bad. And so I kind of wanted her to move past that onto something else quicker. And then when they got to California, I think I liked the story a little bit better. But I found it all very interesting. You know, all this, how they were treated, and people coming from different places, and no matter where you came from, they assumed you were an Okie. And she would say, no, I'm from Texas. And they'd say, well, I don't really care. You're all the same, basically. And I was telling my daughter this story, and she said, they were treating white people like that? I'm like, yeah, it was a story about, it wasn't about Black people. She said, wow, that surprised me. So that part of history, I guess I didn't realize that the treatment was that way. So like I said, when they got to California, I liked it a little bit better. And I would have liked to find out what happened to her family.
Her family.
Her family, because she went to the house and they were gone, and it never said anything about them. I thought that would have been interesting. And also what happened to Rafe. I would have liked to find out what happened to him. You know, did he end up with a good life, or did he end up wandering?
Probably
You know,
wandering.
pretty much
Like
like
one of the
them.
bums that they talked about, the hobos. that
Right.
they talked about, I'm
Exactly.
sure is what
Yeah.
he
So
was.
yeah, I
And
thought
I
maybe they
felt-
might cross his path, but
I thought so
I know, I
too.
kept waiting for that too, but I
Yeah.
kind of think it was poetic that they didn't, but I kind of thought that they did in a roundabout way tell what happened to her family, like after they were so snooty and mean and rude and said that she would never amount to anything. And, you know, that I think that they lost their home, they lost everything just like everybody else. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's, you know, you never know what life will deal you, and
That's
treating
true.
people with respect and kindness and love, no matter what position you or they are. And
No.
I think she was able to say, it no longer matters to me.
Right.
You know, they treated her very poorly. And I think it was I kind of liked the way that they told that part, but
Right.
You know,
I, Sharon, too, am somebody who's like, I want to know every detail. I want to know
Right.
everything that's happened ending, and I want you to wrap it all up.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I
Yeah,
get that.
Yeah. I just kind of I like the background story, I guess, a lot. And her parents were just so, even before she got pregnant, just so horrible to her. And I just
They
would
were.
like more insight into why they were so terrible. But, I mean, that didn't take away from the story for me. I just would have liked to know what happened to them.
Yeah.
It was like she was Cinderella. She was like the stepchild, the stepdaughter that no one wanted.
Right.
You know what? I just wanted to interject really quick. When the hardship came in the town, wasn't it beautiful how the Martinellis, they were like, we're going to stay here. So, but they were committed and devoted to each other. So
They were.
Very much so.
Well, and
Yeah.
and like they said, like there's nothing
where else will
else.
we go?
Like, this is our land, good, bad, indifferent, ugly,
Indifferent.
whatever. This is ours. This is the only thing we have in life. If we leave it, we have nothing.
Right.
So you can kind of understand it, you can kind of understand that, like, what else is there? Where do we go? And you kind of saw what happens when you left. So,
Right.
so yeah.
Right.
How about
So
you,
Pam
Pam?
and Allison.
I liked the book, and it was long, but I thought, I'm going to keep going at this. what I didn't like were the parents telling their own daughter, "You're so ugly, you're unmarriageable, you'll never do anything." And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. She came from both of you. If she don't look like you and the other sisters, there's somebody in your family that looks like her.
Yeah.
So cut it out, you know?
Right.
You know, she is what she is.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why she made that dress and got dressed up and went out that night and ran into rap and, you know, all these other things. But I like the story because as she continued on her journey, like once she left, determined to make things better or find better, she became stronger. She was there by herself and she had to partner up with that teenage daughter, the son, and make things for themselves. Now, you know, I've always heard about the Dust Bowl and knew it was like camps in Arvin and Lamont and, you know, Shafter and stuff. But that inhumane treatment they were doing to people, you know, taking their checks and not willing to pay them a higher wage. This reminded me of American Greed.
Yeah.
You know, just working them to the bone
Right.
and not wanting to pay them a decent wage. I just,
Yeah.
when she met Jack, the union organizer, it kind of like turned for her. She felt kind of like she was getting some self-worth. And the friend Jean that had lost the baby in the camp.
Oh, yeah.
That was so
Yeah, that was sad.
That was just like the baby didn't make it because she didn't get any nutrition.
Right.
Canned milk, watery tea, you know, who you wouldn't treat a dog that bad.
No.
But then, you know, you go to the hospital, well, we can't touch you people. You're full of diseases. And like when she was in the PTA meeting and grabbed all the snacks, I'm like, you go, girl.
Yeah.
Those snacks.
Yeah.
You know? But all in all, it was a good story. It gave me some history and enlightened me more than what I know, you know, that went on here. And I just am like your daughter said, Sharon, they treated white people like that. So I'm like,
Yeah,
why are they gonna treat me any better, you know?
exactly.
And then before they came to the land, they had ran the Mexican people off, pushed them out of the US. And so then they brought these people in. And it was just like, this is crazy.
Unbelievable, huh?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Here
I
in
guess there's a
America-
museum in town about it. I didn't know that.
Really?
Oh, really?
There's a
Oh,
museum
I
in
saw
town about
that.
it.
It was on
Yeah.
the news.
Yeah, there's a museum in town. I thought, oh, and I had all these, you know, big plans of like doing stuff, checking it out and everything, but I didn't have the time.
I don't
But
know
yeah,
where it
there is
is,
a
though.
museum.
It was
I'll have to
awesome.
look it up and let you know because I have heard about it. It
Okay.
might be at Buena Vista, but I can't remember. I'll have to look it up and find out.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see because I know as you know, farm laborers came along in Bakersfield after the Dust Bowl area. You know, everybody jumped on the buses or took their cars and, you know, did the labor.
I know that's the story of Ford City and Taft. That's the
Okay,
whole reason it's called Ford City was because they were trucks that they lived out of the back of their trucks, their Fords.
Oh,
And so that's how the name came to be.
okay, that's
Okay.
interesting too.
Yeah, and that Ford City is the closest, you know, it's the first thing you hit when you hit Taft.
Right,
So
right,
it's,
because it kind of goes to the side there.
yeah, it's kind of considered the not so great
Right.
area.
Right.
So the only reason I know that is because I worked at the school there. So,
Mhm.
but that was the story that I had been told several times that was the whole reason they had Ford City. It was because they lived out of their back of their Fords.
wow.
Okay. Yeah, and they,
Interesting. Learn
her
something
fam-
new.
yeah, her
Uh-huh.
friend Jean and the family lived out the back of their truck too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the oil museum there in Taft actually does have a cabin of what they did start putting up for people that were similar to that you know were in the city that way. So there is a little bit of history, but that one is more geared towards the oil.
Okay, okay. Interesting.
Well, I like
Erica, it was a
mean-
good story. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
liked it too. I was sick, and so it took me a little while to read it. Me and Mom had COVID, and
Did
so
you both get COVID, Allison? Wow.
yeah, we got Mom was kind of she wasn't feeling well a few days before me, and then me being around her, I thought she just had a cold or something, because Ma always tends to get the flu around this time. And so we were trying to, keep her as healthy as we could. And she was babysitting my niece's daughter. Madison had a daughter, so she was babysitting. And so she went over to the house back and forth. And then I think my younger sister had COVID, but she was still working. And then Ma became sick, and me hanging around Ma, of course, I was like, why am I getting a sore throat? I haven't been sick since September of 2017, which I was proud about, but now, and you think you're taking all these different vitamins, taking care of yourself. And I guess we were trying to run from this pandemic for a couple of years, and it just caught up with us. And so Ma and myself, we got it. And right now I'm still like tired. I'm still tired. And I went to, get checked out the 1st of February. And then by that 2 or 3 days had passed, which I was just feeling worse and worse. I got like the message back saying, oh yeah, you got it. I'm like, great. And I just got mad. I wasn't even like, oh dang, okay. I was just like, really? Yeah. Really? You go to me like that? So it's like, and so it was, and I think I was more shocked than anything. And then, so we were just getting, better day by day, but still tired. Like that feeling like you're not all like well. And then Mom was getting better on her own. She didn't even go get checked out. She just said, okay, I got a cold, and let it go at that. But she went to a funeral and she passed out. And she hurt her hip and she hurt her elbow. And so she had been in a hospital for a few days.
No, Allison.
Yeah, so Ma was in the hospital. So we were like, and they wouldn't let us go see her because they said, okay, one person can go see her per day. And then they checked her for COVID, and they said, no one can come in here. So she was in the hospital for like 2.5, 3 days. And then they gave her like some medication, and I'm thinking, wait, we were sick together. So I don't know if Ma caught it again, or if it was just still lingering in her system. But so it took me a while to, I'm like, wait, I gotta read the book club book. So I'm like, it was like after Valentine's Days, I'm like, I better read this book, which I thought was really good, but it was so sad. I was like, I wasn't expecting that to happen to Elsa. I'm like, oh, after all this, she found love. Her daughter respected her because her daughter was giving her a hard time. And, and even though they were going to get kicked out of their little cabin that they had.
Auntie.
Yes. And I'm like, after all this. And then I wanted to see I wanted the person who shot her to get something to happen to him, but they never said, they just kind of went on about their way. And it was a tearjerker because she had a hard life. I felt sorry for her. I'm thinking, and she was always trying to do what she felt she was missing, or what she, to help everybody else too.
Yeah.
Her immediate family wasn't kind to her at all. But the Martinellis were, they treated her like a daughter, and they had love for her, and I love that part. Even though their son ran out on them, but and the daughter, was on Elsa really hard, and she was being as gentle as she could with her daughter every step of the way. But she was kind, and she was. I liked her friendship she had with Jean. I love that friendship, that you don't even know this person and you're sharing what you have with them.
Right.
Yes.
You only have a small amount.
Right.
And, so that the book is really good. I really liked it. It was the ending I was not expecting. I did not like that part.
No, I didn't.
I wanted her to survive, but I read the author's information and everything afterwards too. So I'm like, I like that, she kind of explained what was going on further, but I liked it. I liked the book. I liked it a lot. And I wish Ma could have been here too, because she, was around that time. And her parents were, of course. And it just reminded me of my grandpa, who owned land back in Mississippi. And he had a really good friend who was a white man. And they wouldn't let my grandpa own this land until his friend bought it for like a few pennies. And they became friends. They were friends as long as they were living. And then after my grandpa's friend passed away, he gave my grandpa his land. And so my grandparents of course have since passed, but it's still in our family. And my uncle is still, he still has, and the land is huge. And but without that one person, he wouldn't have been able to get that.
Right.
And so I'm like, I could see why they felt that land was so important.
Right.
The Martinellis, of course. And just to get a small piece of land, just to have that, and call it your own. And
Right.
but anyway, I'm being to be so long, but I thought that the book was really good. It was.
I hope
Exactly.
his mom's feeling better.
Yes,
you.
give her our love and
I
tell
just
her.
came from over there. Yes,
Yes.
she is. She's walking with my dad's cane. Cane, and then she has like a little walker, but she's getting around much better. But
Okay,
she wasn't
good.
walking good at all. Lex made her something to eat, and then we took like some of her clothes. We could wash her clothes and everything. But she has started to get around. Thank you. I'll let her know.
Yes,
Yeah.
please
Get
do.
around better.
And Allison, in the future, please let us know, because any way we can support you all, we're here for each other.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And she's gonna love hearing. She's gonna love hearing that too.
Definitely.
So,
Something that all of you have said, when Loretta, the daughter, when she was running away, remember
Oh,
when
my
she was
goodness.
running away? And then it's interesting how she met Jack. Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this man's going to take advantage of her.
I thought
But
that too.
Jack was her saving grace, and
Yes.
then became her mom's love. So it's
Yes.
like Elsa finally had someone who really cared about
Yes.
her,
Yes.
which you want that because she's caring for everyone. And I tell you one thing in this book, I could just picture those shanties, and it was filthy, disease is running
Oh.
rampant through there, and they don't have running water, and
Right.
it's just a mess. But something that you said, Pam, I think you shared, the little that they had, they were willing. Allison, maybe you said this with Jean. They
Allison.
just gave what they had to each
Mhm.
other,
Right,
and they just
right.
shared. That was beautiful.
Mhm. It was. It really was. And it's like Jack just came too late in the book. He
was
showed
sad.
her what beauty is.
Yes.
And he showed her what love is, because she
Yes.
never had that
No.
like
No.
in that way. So that was really heartfelt. That warmed my heart. And then she passed away.
I
I'm
know.
like, really?
That was not
But
right.
the
That
cool
was a
thing,
tearjerker.
right? The beautiful thing was she was able to express her love to her children, and they were able to express their love to her.
Right.
And full circle, then Loretta leaves. She goes back to her grandparents, the Martinellis.
Yes.
She goes on to go to college. So
Right.
it's like Elsa, you may have thought in the beginning she didn't have dreams, but she was so courageous, and she did. And she kept instilling, in her daughter. And look at, the daughter was able to manifest in her life what her mother wasn't able to do. But because
Right.
of her mother's sacrifice and courage and
Right.
leaving the farm, the
Yeah.
Martinellis, and going out to try to find something better, that took a lot of courage.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Driving all that way from
Right.
Texas to California by yourself, with two
Right.
children.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And coming through the
Nothing.
old Tehachapi and Mojave.
Yeah.
It wasn't a nice highway then.
So there were the Dust Bowl days in Bakersfield up until September 2019. They did it for 30 years. They did Dust Bowl days. And there is, I kind of was looking it up on, there is the summer camp in Bakersfield. It's called the Summer Camp and the Weed Patch Camp. And it is the school and the housing that they ended up staying in. So that's all on, let me show you where it is. Let's see. It's on 9248 Sunset Boulevard off of Weed Patch, and then Weed Patch Camp at 8701 Sunset. And it is it's Says, went here for Dust Bowl days. My grandparents and father lived here back when it was Okie Camp. And it was the Okie Camp, and it is a historical site here in Bakersfield. It's the most famous of these camps was the Arvin Farm Labor Supply Center, now known as the Sunset Camp or Weed Pitch Camp, located just south of Lamont.
All
They
right.
hold the Dust Bowl Festival there for 30 years.
Oh
And
my
they
goodness.
Didn't do, they had to make it stop, which is interesting because they stopped September 19, they stopped September 2019, so we can't do it anymore. They wouldn't have been able to do it after that, right? For a couple
Right.
years.
Right.
with COVID.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. It might be someplace I'd have to check out, but there are places at the Kern County Museum they have that might have some information on it as well. But yeah, so the families were escaping the ecological disaster that later became known as the Dust Bowl. And that is, I'm wondering if this is what, remember when they stayed in those housing? And it
Yeah.
was like one family. I'm thinking this is probably what that depicts.
Yes.
Right.
Sunset camps. So Tammy sent me a message tonight and she says, hi Erica, I'm not going to be able to connect tonight from my location. The Wi-Fi is too slow. I've sent you the above, which is an interview, and she sent me some information, which is an interview with Minnie Hallam. She talks about how things were during the time covered in the book and other things too. I did not finish the book because it was too sad and depressing to me and a little too close to home. I read most of it. My mom and her family came out here from Arkansas and they lived in tents, but not in Weed Patch. I believe they were in tents on land that belonged to the Jewett Ranch. Mr. Jewett really liked my grandfather, and fairly soon after my family's arrival, provided a house to him and the family to live in while he and my family were working for him. My mom, her siblings, and my grandmother picked cotton for the Jewett Ranch. I guess they were very lucky. My mom never mentioned any issues or problems that they faced during this time, but I think they arrived maybe as much as 10 years after the events in the book. Anyway, Minnie Hallam was the grandmother of one of my very best friends growing up, and I spent the night in her home often. She was an awesome woman, and I learned a lot from the book, things I had no idea that occurred. I've not listened to Minnie Hallam's interview, but I plan to. And it is her friend's grandmother, and there is an interview in the Cal State Bakersfield education files, and I can forward some of the information to you that she sent.
Okay.
But
Okay.
it's an interview with her, and it talks, she does the transcripts and the outline. It says, traveled by Greyhound bus, finding Arvin and the Pomeroy and Jewett Ranch, description of Arvin, life with electricity, first house, picking cotton, reflections about Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath, because Grapes of Wrath is about the
Yes,
same
happened
thing.
here.
Rancher-worker relations, changes in society, travel over the ridge route, reuniting with husband Vernon, and schools in Arvin. And it's all archives.lib.csub.edu. And so it's the California State University Historical Research Center.
Okay.
And it's an interview with this woman that was
Okay.
Tammy's best friend's grandma. So,
Awesome.
and it talked all about this. So, so I thought that was very cool information
Mhm.
to receive. So,
Excellent.
I have questions, but they're kind of long. I loved what you all had to say. So I don't know if we want to go into those. That's up to you, Cindy, but I guess I will ask this one. How about we just ask one?
Sure.
Because I was curious about this too. It's something that I thought about as well. But it says Elsa and her family endured extreme hardships even after arriving in California, and yet they persevere. Do you think their life would have been better or worse if they had stayed in Texas?
Good question.
I know the first thing that's coming to my mind is that was in her heart to do, so she did it. But the one thing that I think it may have been less hard if she had stayed with the Martinellis, because it may have been less hard because at least she would have had the nucleus of love and
Mhm.
support.
Okay, yeah.
But then, they didn't talk about what happened, but we know the Martinelli survived because the granddaughter went back. So, but then would Elsa have always had regret about what might have been?
Well, I think her son had to go. They really didn't have a choice.
True.
And I think she, in the back of her mind, thought, he needs to at least have a year without the dust.
Health-wise.
Yeah. So I do believe, I believe she would have reached another heartache, and that would have been her.
Right.
She would have lost her son.
Right.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, he just was weak that way.
It
So
does.
I don't think the daughter's relationship would have come around either. Because
I
until the
agree.
daughter saw, that the grass wasn't greener in land of milk and honey, she wouldn't have, I don't think she ever would have come full circle, that young girl.
Right.
I agree with you, Tiffany. I also think by her, and this is something that I loved about Tony, by him preparing her to travel, it gave her a little bit of control into the adventure in a sense. And also at the same time, when you have that, it makes you realize how much you have to think about those things.
Right.
And I think that was a turning point for her. She started to see what her mom was kind of protecting her from, but at the same time, what they needed to move forward to. So I agree with you, Tiffany. I don't think that relationship would have changed without that.
And then also Elsa would never have known the love of the friendship that she had with
Amen.
Jean or Jan.
All right.
She wouldn't have known that. She would never have known love as a woman from
Jack.
Jack.
I can't think of his name, Jack. No,
She became a woman too, became.
Yes, correct.
She really became herself. Yeah.
Yes.
At first your thought is the devil, right?
Right.
Day and the Dust Bowl, and it wouldn't be any harder then, but a lot did come out of what they experienced. Yeah.
It happened the way it was supposed to.
Right.
One thing that I thought was odd was when they went to the hotel or to that, when she was in a separate room from her kids. I don't know about you ladies, but there's no way I would have left my kids in a room by themselves during that time or any time. No way.
I think it was so different back then because she left her kids with a lot of different people. Like, stay here by yourself in the tent and I'll be back, or stay with Jean and her family, I'll be back, or stay in the truck while I go into the store. So I think the times just were different then, even though you still of course had to be cautious. But I think it was different because Mom would always say that they would never they would sleep outside, and Mom picked cotton. So, and I wish she was here to let you guys know. I mean, when she was younger, she had to pick cotton too. And I'm like, what? So that was really interesting. But Mom would always say that when she was growing up, they never had to close their doors or lock the doors or whatever. But so it was, I think it was just a little bit, it was just different back then. Maybe people trusted you more. They had trust in you more. Nowadays, you can't do that.
Right. And the saying, it takes a village to raise a child. People really, they looked out after each other. It was just a given. It's like, oh, those are Pam's children. It's like, come on in here. Your mom has to do such and such. They just really embrace. It was really community.
Yes. Because we were left in the car while my parents went in shopping. You do that today, you get arrested. We were sitting in the car. Everybody, all the kids were sitting in the car. There would be a car here with kids, car over here with kids, and we'd be out there meeting kids while our parents were in the store. You do that today. It's like, no.
Doing the grocery shopping.
No. Yeah.
Erica, to answer your question, which is kind of a combination of what everyone else said. I think physically, Elsa would have been better staying in Texas, but emotionally, and as a woman, in order for her to grow, she needed to leave and go to California, and for her to become a model for her daughter, because her daughter didn't see any of the qualities, those great
Yeah.
qualities that her mom had until they got to California and she realized just how strong she was. And so,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah.
She may have lived, but she would have lost her kids, and that's
Yeah.
not
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Aunt loved her no matter what, because he was so
Yes.
young. But her daughter was headstrong,
Yeah.
and wanted to kind of do things on her own, which a lot of young kids are in that way, but maybe not to that extent where she was kind of talking back. But yeah, Loretta had her own mind made up about a lot of different things, whether she ran away from home, driving a truck, or even pulling that shotgun out on the man who tried to take their stuff.
Right.
Did you do it?
And so she was strong for a young girl. She was very strong.
Well, she
And then
certainly
robbing
came
that
from.
store to get money to go home. Remember,
Right.
she dressed up as a boy
Mhm.
and had that
Yeah.
gun and robbed that
Right.
store. Woo-hoo.
Mhm.
Money
Bye,
for
Bella.
home.
Don't you think she saw her mother through her father's eyes, though? She kind of saw her mother.
Yes.
True. That's
Yeah.
What her
true.
father saw.
Yeah.
Well, and they said that a lot. Like, I
Yeah.
know how dad feels about her. And
Right.
Right, right. That
I think that was
nice.
lousy.
Yeah.
It
Wasn't
was.
nice.
And how she would say, he left because of you.
Mhm.
Right.
Right,
Like,
right.
And Elsa still was very gentle with her in her
Mhm.
He
answer,
was.
which
Mhm.
that's a lot of courage on her
He
end.
did.
She was very strong.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been my mom. No.
No. I never even would have thought that, because if my mom would have seen it, she would have seen it go
No.
across my forehead. I said,
Right.
yeah, I wouldn't have never even thought something like that.
No.
So Erica, would you like to give the concluding statement?
I'm glad you all enjoyed it. It is interesting. It's always great to read a book that pulls that kind of emotions out of everybody, whether they love it or not, whether they find it too hard to read. Sometimes that makes it an even better book because it pulls at the emotions of so many.
Right.
And it's an interesting perspective, Sharon, that you shared with us what your daughter thought. Not something that all of us thought about when we read the book. And just very it shows what a great book it was, whether you loved it or hate it, because of what it made us all feel and think about, and the thought-provoking conversation we had over it. So,
Right.
and it's interesting that it's our piece of history, and I'm glad you all enjoyed it.
We
Yeah.
did. Thank you, Erica.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.